Back in my homeland of Tibet, we were nomads, so we needed dogs, and that's one reason I still love dogs. And another reason, Buddhism teaches us that every being is born to a parent, and we can be born as humans or dogs. So maybe one of these dogs could have been my mother or father in a past life. So when I find stray dogs, I take them under my care. Tsering Nima is a Tibetan refugee living in Dharamsala, India. Back in Tibet, I was a very angry person and would lash out at anyone who annoyed me. I couldn't control my temper then. I'd react quickly, verbally, and physically. I had no self-control. I wouldn't even care about dying. I would just brag that if I died, I could always come back as a human in the next life. Now I know that getting reborn in the human realm is not that easy. When I was working in Lhasa, I heard that India is a happy place. You get to go to school, you can do anything you want. Then, after we came here, it's like, look up to see the empty sky, look down and there's the empty land. There's not much happiness here. Nima fled China to come to India 2 decades ago to meet the Dalai Lama and get an education. He risked his life crossing the snowy Himalayas with little more than some cold Tibetan porridge. At the time, he was one of thousands of Tibetan refugees leaving China every year. When Nima made it to Nepal, he entered a network of Tibetan reception centers created by the Dalai Lama's government in exile to house and process incoming Tibetan refugees. Nima traveled from the center in Kathmandu to this one in New Delhi. Nima finally arrived in Dharamsala, India, where the Dalai Lama has founded a sort of capital for the Tibetan community in exile. Nima stayed at the Dharamsala Reception Center, which was in this building on the crowded streets of McLeod-Ganj. The center was overwhelmed with the steady stream of thousands of Tibetan refugees, and every day new refugees would arrive. They slept several people to a bunk, and even then, some had to sleep on this floor, even in the freezing winters. Nima's time in India didn't go as he had hoped. Turned out he was too old to go to the Tibetan schools, and Nima's meeting with the Dalai Lama was more rushed than he was hoping. A ton of responsibility lies on his shoulders, so I was sad that I didn't get to have a conversation with him. But then I thought, I'm just one person, and His Holiness has to look out for so many people, and my sadness evaporated. Nima was ready to go back to Tibet when he got a job working at the Tibetan Reception Center as a cook for the incoming masses. If I hadn't landed a job there so soon, I would have gone back to my hometown. But the first time I cooked for other refugees, I felt that it was my duty. I wanted to make sure that they would feel a little better about overcoming all they go through to get here if they had a warm, tasty, home-cooked meal. Over the last 2 decades, thousands and thousands of Tibetan refugees have tasted Tsering Nima's Sampa porridge for breakfast, enjoyed his meaty lunches with a side of Tingmos steamed bread rolls for lunch, and sipped the broth of his tukpa noodle soups for dinner. Nima now works in the spacious kitchen at a big new Tibetan center a few miles away from the crowded streets of McLeod-Ganj. The Tibetan government built this new center with American support so that the thousands of incoming Tibetan refugees could finally have somewhere to stay comfortably when they made it to India. But now, the center is mostly empty. In 2008, after worldwide Tibetan protests of the Chinese occupation, the Chinese government made it even harder for Tibetans to move across the country, get passports, and leave China. The thousands of Tibetans fleeing China became hundreds, then dozens. Nima mostly just cooks for the handful of staff here. Most of the time, I have strong regrets about coming to India. The milk here doesn't even taste as good as the water back home, and it breaks my heart. I worry I made the wrong move coming into exile, but then I think to myself, I had wealth and precious gems in Tibet, but even if I had a house full of silver, I wouldn't have been able to get a glimpse of His Holiness the Dalai Lama's face. Then I resolved to be a better person. I used to call my family in Tibet once a week. I talk to my mom, my siblings, my nephews and nieces. Even if I don't get to see their faces, I'm happy to just hear their voice and know what they're doing. I wanted to bring my mother here. I wanted to get her an audience with His Holiness the Dalai Lama. I feel it's time to fulfill my family duty to her. I thought that I would take care of her myself. I kept telling her to try getting a visa, and I would find the money somehow. I wanted her to try everything, even if she had to bribe her way to a pass. It's been 3 or 4 months since the lines have been blocked, and we can't talk to each other. I call, and all I get is a Chinese voice telling me that I can't get through. The number doesn't work anymore. I don't know which of us will live longer, but if my mom can come here someday, and I can fulfill my duty to her as a son, I would be at peace. But in case fate will keep us apart, take good care of these dogs. I truly believe that by taking care of them, I'm taking care of my mom. I love dogs, but it isn't easy with some strays. Their food is expensive. These dogs have no one else to care for them, and I believe that if this is my fate, then this is the right thing for me to do.